Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, stay tuned for my special interview with the Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Tom Corbett, and then, watch that identity theft and plastic cards, you know, the ones we use around the holiday season. Back in a moment with those stories and more.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Welcome back to the program. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you all. May we wish you the best. We'll get to the New Year's a little later, but now it's Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. We're fortunate today to have the Governor of the Commonwealth, who's a frequent visitor to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. Governor Corbett, welcome.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you. Same to you, and Happy Holidays to everybody.
Thank you. Well, look, Governor, as you know, this has been a pretty tough couple of weeks with the Connecticut school shooting. I know that it's moved gun control to center stage. I noticed where Senator Casey, thinking of his father, Senator Casey has, said that, maybe we can now do assault weapon bans and these large clips. You've had a lot of experience as a prosecutor with this. Let's talk about some aspects of it. First of all, your general view about what we should be doing, if anything, about gun control in the wake of those shootings.
Well, and you have to keep in mind, we've already experienced this here in Pennsylvania. Not too many years ago down in Lancaster County, at the Nickel Mines, in the school there. And as much as this is the weapons were used, this is a mental health issue also. This young man certainly had some mental problems, and we cannot look at them just as to what was the weapon that caused this. We have to look at the entire scene. When they're talking about weapons bans and so forth, that's going to be a federal issue. It cannot be a state issue. We have state laws in effect. We enforce them. We have them at the federal level also. The straw purchaser, people that get weapons that aren't supposed to possess the weapons. You might recall that when I was Attorney General, we created, at the request of the legislature, a gun task force in Philadelphia to help reduce the violence there for going after people who were possessing firearms that didn't have the right to possess those firearms. Mm-hmm. But we always know that those people are going to be able to go out there and get those firearms.
So do you think if there's and who knows what will happen when the legislature returns? I mean, there are two sort of big aspects that we could talk about just for a minute. One is the assault weapon ban itself. The legislature could do an assault weapon ban here.
No, that is a federal issue.
So what's all this talk then, loose talk that we hear, maybe not about an assault weapon ban?
Well, I believe it's a congressional. That's why Senator Casey is weighing in on it. That's why the congressmen are weighing in on the question.
Right.
Because those weapons are carried in interstate commerce.
I get it. Okay, let's talk about background checks. About 50% of the people across the country obtain weapons. Maybe they go to gun shows or whatever, and there are not sufficient background checks, if any. Do you think anything can be done, again, drawing on your years as a prosecutor, about gun?
Right now, Pennsylvania is really a model. Our background check, we do the background checks. The state police do the background checks. What we need to do is the background on the mental history also, and we do that here in Pennsylvania. Other states, I'm not sure that they do. And there is a technical problem that I don't fully understand. I'm trying to get somebody to come in and explain it to me, why we're not able to upload onto the federal system from our state system all of the issues that we have and all the work that we have done, the state police have done on the background checks, particularly on the mental health side.
You mean to share with other states? To share it.
There's a technical issue as to what's going up there, because states will look at the other states through the federal system. Right. We also have our state system, so we check through the state system.
So in other words, you think that coordination of the efforts state by state would be extraordinary, would be helpful in eliminating gun violence?
Well, there is, because there's the federal instant check system that everybody does check, but not everybody shares all their information. Yeah. Right now, our mental health information isn't able to go to the federal system. That could be helpful. For instance, if this young man had been here in Pennsylvania, and there was an issue here, it would not have been picked up on the federal system.
I get it.
Okay.
One of the things that's complex about this that it's hard to get a handle on is this issue of, here's a kid who apparently broke no laws, who was a little different.
No history.
No history. And you're thinking, well, and his mother apparently was talking about institutionalizing him, which apparently he knew, and that was, again, lots of reporting that had problems, as you know. But if that's the case, I mean, it's tough to get with no mental history. It's almost as though there are lots we can do, but lots we can't do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, if somebody wants to do this, if they had no history of this, you don't understand what lights the fuse to take them off. The young man in Aurora, Colorado, at the movie theater. What caused that? Right. Columbine. What caused those things? And it's easy, not easy. It's still difficult to look back afterwards and say, well, you should have picked up this flag and this flag. But for instance, this young man, were there flags? I don't know. Was he a little bit different? I think everybody has said he was a little bit different.
But 99.
But there's nothing wrong with being different.
But it's like video games, and I have no trouble with not letting kids watch some of that stuff. I mean, but 99% of the kids who watch it don't go out and commit a crime, even though it's hardening. Personally, I wouldn't let my kids watch that stuff. But
you hit on a very key point right there. Right now, today, you can turn on the television and you can watch programs, and young people can watch it also if their parents don't control it. Right. Much different than when you and I were young, what was available on television, where you see a movie and somebody goes through and kills 35 people. You can't even keep the death count. Yeah. Do you ever try and keep a death count sometimes when you're watching some of these violent movies?
No, I don't bother.
Are they interesting movies? Yes, but
a lot of
And so they have become desensitized.
Yeah, good point.
What it is.
All right, we're talking with the governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Corbett. We'll be back, and we're going to get into this whole business of transportation funding, how important that is to you. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Business Council Education Foundation, educating citizens and business leaders about important public policy issues and civic affairs. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by BetterSaferRoads.com. To voice your support for safer highways and less traffic congestion, visit BetterSaferRoads.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, back to the program with the governor, Tom Corbett. We're going to talk now about something we've done myriad of shows on: roads, bridges, improvement. The governor's advisory commission, $2.5 million a year. Bunch of other commissions. There's a consensus, Democrats, Republicans, liberal. There's no argument over this, Governor. It needs to get done. Where do you stand on what kind of funding mechanisms you would consider to pay for this $2.5 million? Well, $1 billion a year. Should it only be $1 million?
We have a great demand for money in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the United States, and things are going to get worse with the fiscal cliff. We won't even go into that. And what we were trying to do with PennDOT and Barry Shook, the Secretary of Transportation, has done a good job. We broke it down into 3 segments. One segment was modernization. One segment was basically efficiencies. Let's start spending our money more wisely. Right. But now we're into the construction side and where you get the money from that. There's been some things that have been created in that period of time. The public-private partnership, the ability to enter into those. That legislation was passed. And we're going to be looking to the private sector to help us build some of the roads, build some possible toll lanes. That would be just an additional lane to, like, let's pick a road, Interstate 81. I'm not saying it's going to happen there.
I got it.
But that's, that would be an example where you have a high volume and certain times of the day they would be used by only people with an easy pass or something like that. So you have that. You have the MAP 21 that was passed down in Washington that allows for potential tolling of a bridge or two, or 3 or 4, that would allow you to take not only money from the tolls for that bridge, but use them on other bridges around the area around that. Sure. So you would find funding there. Because what we need to do is find funding.
How about oil franchise tax?
That's another area that we are going to make a proposal on. We don't have the final work on it.
But you're going to look at that.
But that's one, because right now the gas tax at the pump doesn't help us necessarily because it's a fixed tax. We know that gasoline usage is actually going down per car because of the fuel efficiency of a car. And you need something that will adjust to inflation.
And it was set at $1.25 a gallon back before the fall of the Roman Empire, I think. It was that long ago,
It was set there, and there was a cap put in there, an artificial cap that would be put in there. And that would be a tax on the oil companies at the wholesale price. So that is something.
That.
We also have something else I'm hoping is going to be helpful, and that is Congressman Schuster from Altoona. And that area is now become the chairman of the Transportation Committee in the House in Washington. His father had that position at one time, was very beneficial to Pennsylvania, and hopefully we'll see some benefit there too.
All right, so the bottom line here is that you've not taken anything off the table. You said early in the year you're going to produce some. We're going to make a proposal. Now I know what the legislature is going to do, and you know what they're going to do too. Of course.
You're going to see everything get thrown on it. It's going to be what we can agree upon. Will be the end result.
Okay. All right, let's run to a quick break. I want to save some time. The $41 billion. You talk about numbers and pensions that. Problem the state faces between the teachers' pension system and the state employees' pension system. I'm in that. The governor's in that. Lots of people are in that. How we get it straightened out is important. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back with Governor Corbett. We're the Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. If you didn't know that by now, we're chatting about some of the big issues that will confront the governor and the legislature when they confront them now, but when they return in January. Pensions. All right, Governor, $41 billion, state, the basically teacher system, state employee system. What are you going to do about it? Isn't that a tough question?
$41 billion underfunded.
Underfunded. Yeah. So what are we going to do about that?
Well, first off, we were trying to get everybody to understand that this is a major problem for Pennsylvania for the budget. Mm-hmm. You know, we only have so much money. Our budget right now is $27.6 billion. Right. Of that budget, $1.6 billion today goes to make pension contributions to the two different systems. Right. It goes up by about $500 million this coming year. It will take up of the estimated revenue that we think will come in next year. It takes up 62% of that. So you can see that our growth, we're going to need to find more revenue to be able to pay for everything, or we're going to have to continue being very tough on our spending. So if we got to come up with a solution, there's no silver bullet solution. That's the first thing everybody should understand. It's going to be a long-term issue. But we have to start addressing the new people who are coming into the system, the people that are maybe in the system for a while. But let me assure the people who have been in the system, especially the retirees, we are not going to affect the benefits that are already there. You know, we have
probably
to do
couldn't do that constitutionally.
I don't think we could.
You're the lawyer.
Right.
You're right.
I don't think
probably
we could.
Couldn't do that.
Right.
Well, let's talk about some of the possibilities. I mean, one of the things that have been mentioned is to increase the amount that employees currently pay in addition to the employer. Is that on the table?
You could, you know, and the private sector's already gone through this.
I mean,
you know, the private sector, whether they be private unions or just corporations or so forth, you could increase that. You could take the retirement age and move it up to a higher point. You could, and they have already taken it from 5 back up to 10 years where it was originally, the period of time to vest.
Right.
All of those different aspects have to be looked at and seen. And you can encourage that the employees take the money and move it into a 401k that a lot of people have.
I was going to say that's one of the more controversial features is to go to 401k. But is that on the table as far as you're concerned when you talk
Everything
to
has to be on the table when we're
legislature?
talking to the legislature.
Okay.
And I think they understand it because, as I said, again, no silver bullet. Not one thing solves this.
Before I let you go, are you going to provide a series of recommendations to the legislature in January? Is that one of your plans? I know you're doing that with infrastructure. Or are you going to just sit down with leaders and
We're sitting down with the leaders right now. We have to find out where there's a willingness on their part.
I got it.
To move.
I got it.
You know,
So,
I'm tired of saying, here's what I want to do, and there's no willingness to move there.
Is that the same with transportation we talked about, or are you going to have specifics on that?
We'll have specifics, but we will,
But
have,
on
already,
pensions,
we will have already talked with the
But
legislature.
on pensions, you're going to, rather than put
we've already
specifics
started
out.
discussions with
Okay.
with
I just want to make sure, because I get asked that as, you know, someone who, I don't follow you around, but I follow you. You got that going? Look, thanks for coming in. You're always welcome. Come back soon, and we'll get you here maybe in February and see where all this goes. All right, when we come up, watch what you're doing with your credit cards and watch what you're doing with internet fraud. This is a time of year to be especially careful. Our friends from the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association will be back with us after this break.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back to the program. I want to thank the governor for appearing now. It's our popular financial literacy update. We do this each month. We have Corinne Sherman. She's Senior VP of Fee Services at the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association, and Sheba Wallish. She's Director of Card Services at the same association. Sheba, I want to start with you. Man, I'll tell you, the plastic is flying around. Every place I go, I see people handing cards. And sometimes I'm wondering, whoa, we have so many cards, fraud. Talk about what people should be aware of, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, consumers definitely have to be careful with what they have. You know, when they take responsibility in getting a debit or a credit card or some form of plastic, there's responsibility on the consumer side in how they're handling that and how they're safekeeping their information and what they're doing with it.
Well, go through some of the... let me turn to you, Corinne. Go through some of the types of fraud that you track most, that folks mostly get caught up in.
And you know, we're moving away from the traditional types of fraud, Terry. People are still stealing cards and people are still losing their cards. But I think what we really have to watch for is the electronic type of fraud. Yeah. Phishing is huge. People are getting emails and being asked for their credit card information, and they're giving that information. And
I'm still stunned at how many people are willing to do this. Look at this. See this right here. Now tell me, are people actually, you know, they say, well, watch this, where it is, able to take information off of this? Is this also growing or don't you see a lot of this right now?
It is. It's just starting to come into play now, which we're only going to see grow as technology increases. You're going to be able to use your phone, walk up to the point of sale merchant and use your phone to make a purchase just like you would a debit or credit card.
Yeah, what's interesting is my wife now carries her cards in a metal little case. What's that? And she says, well, now they can't, whatever they would do, scan them or what are you laughing, but is that something?
It's a fear that's happening with what we hear of the chip cards and the tap and go cards. And it's near field communication, and they can actually put a device close to your wallet and try to read the information from the chip on your card.
Well, let me ask you this question. Is this something people should worry about?
Absolutely.
Or do you think she's being, you know, I know, I have a wallet, I don't even use that, but she says, oh, it's safe, it's just the same as using a wallet to put my cards in, right? It doesn't hurt anything, does it?
I don't think you can be too cautious with your information.
All right, let's talk about consumer exposure here. How much exposure, do people not care because they say, well, they really don't have any exposure, what is it, maybe $50 or whatever the amount is? Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's in some consumers' minds. Typically with Visa and MasterCard transactions, there's zero fraud liability. So you know you have that safe keep in the back of your mind as you're using your plastic card. But certainly consumers need to realize that it goes beyond that. You know, once somebody has your information, they can use it for so many different purposes, not just that potential $50 limit that you might lose.
Yeah. The other aspect of this that I know a lot of consumer reporters talk about is what we all should be doing to protect ourselves. Go through some of those steps.
I think some of the important things, watch your accounts. You know, pay attention to the transactions that are on the accounts. Take advantage of the account alerts that are out there that a lot of your card issuers allow. Check your credit report every year, at least once a year. You can get it free at annualcreditreport.com. And those are just some basic things that I think all consumers should be doing to keep an eye on their...
We talked earlier about online safety. How much fraud are we seeing in that? How much protection do people need to take? Is that growing in significance, people who get scammed that way?
It is, just because consumers in general are using the internet more and more for purchases. So naturally the shift is going to move from the physical store to the online merchant.
Yeah, now if people find they're scammed, and obviously they go to their credit card company and they'll go, well, I had this problem, here's what it is. But shouldn't they be doing something with the credit reporting agencies as well?
Yeah, it's important to put an alert on your account at the credit reporting agency so that they know to look for suspicious activity in case other creditors are looking at the account, so that they know that the identity's been stolen.
You know, my sense about this is that people really don't spend a lot of time on this unless and until something happens. I know that I'll get information all the time about how to check on identity fraud, what to do with cards, and I go through them pretty quickly. Basically, I let my wife handle all of that. But there are all sorts of resources available, right, that make you a smart consumer. What are some of them? Are there just websites that you would get on?
There is, and usually your financial institution or the issuer of your card has information available to you as well to help you protect yourself and your identity. And certainly looking at the credit report, the credit reporting agency websites have some good tips as well for you. And if anything does happen, you need to report it, protect yourself, and so you can protect it in the future.
Is this a problem? I mean, is this a problem basically because we're just using so much? I mean, young people. You know, I spend my life on a college campus, and I don't even see young people having any money. I mean, you know, in the traditional sense that they're carrying cash around, they're using debit cards and credit cards. I mean, that must just accelerate the tendency for fraud to exist, right?
Absolutely. I mean, since 1980, plastic card volumes went from 15% of all transaction activity to 60% of all transaction activity. So with that said, there's bound to be more fraud going on.
And so I noticed that that businesses are losing tons of money on this, exactly? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're out of time. I want to thank you for coming on. Great update. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And as always, stay well.